Gamecock fans. It's the Carolina CrowLine. And here's your host, Tyler Garrett.
We may not be LSU or Alabama, but we ain't Clemson.
11 wins is for every Gamecock always.
Welcome into the Carolina CrowLine. I'm your host, Tyler Garrett. Glad to be with you on this action-packed hour of the program. So many things to get to. The roller coaster ride for the Yardcocks continue as they get swept right out of Gainesville. You'll have my reaction and hear a little bit from Coach Chad Holbrook himself. The spring game has wrapped up and spring practice is over. You'll hear from Coach Spurrier and some positions to watch and some good things we did during spring practice and upcoming fall battles to look for. Michael Roth, the chosen one, makes his debut in the major leagues, and we get a big-time new commitment for the class of 2014 and a spring game report from that school in the upstate and enemy territory. All that and more right here on the Carolina CrowLine.
If you like painting and saving, ask Sherwin-Williams and save 40% on paint and stains during our 4-day super sale, April 19th through the 22nd. With 40% off our great paints and stains and 30% off painting supplies, you can give your whole home a color makeover. But hurry, these savings are so super, they won't be around for long. Find your nearest store at sherwinwilliams.com/sale. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
That Hotels.com April shower sale is incredible.
I know.
I can't believe how much money we saved.
Don't say that too loudly. If the bellhops hear how much we saved, they'll be on us, looking for big tips. Too late.
Hi, folks. Take your bag. Call you a limo.
Wow.
Can I bring you extra towels? How about a club sandwich?
I can carry you down the stairs. Throw it on rose petals.
The Hotels.com April shower sale. On now through April 29th. With savings so great, you won't be able to keep it a secret. Book now and save up to 30%. Hotels.com. Finding you the perfect place at the perfect price.
The Southeastern Conference has established the most outstanding college football tradition in the country. The 14 member institutions have combined for an unprecedented 459 bowl appearances. Key to the success of SEC football is support of the many loyal fans who have helped the conference lead the nation in total attendance for 29 consecutive years. The SEC salutes the more than 6.5 million fans who will attend a game at an SEC stadium this year.
Ladies, when was the last time you found it easy to lose weight? If you're like most women, it was before you turned 40. That's because age 40 is when hormonal imbalance begins. And until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Thank goodness today we have Amberen. Amberen promotes hormonal balance naturally. It's clinically shown to cause weight loss in women over 40 with no big lifestyle changes required.
I thought I was somehow not trying hard enough to lose weight. Turns out it was my hormones. I started with Amberen, and I finally lost the weight. It was so easy, and I feel fantastic.
Amberen relieves other symptoms of menopause too, like hot flashes, fatigue, sleeplessness, and many more. The first 50 callers right now can get a complimentary, risk-free trial of Amberen with a 30-day supply free. Now, free supplies are limited, so be one of the first callers now at 1-800-584-9252. That's 1-800-584-9252. 1-800-584-9252.
All right, welcome into the Carolina CrowLine. We are kicking off the program right now on this Monday evening, 7 minutes after the hour. If you're listening to us live on Spreecast, www.spreecast.com, we truly appreciate that. You can listen to all of our episodes live across the internet every Monday evenings on Spreecast, or you can, if you need to get that information, of course, you can follow us on Twitter, and we tweet out links to the broadcasts before we actually go on air. You can also like us on Facebook. We update our Twitter and Facebook throughout the week with Gamecock news and notes. If you would like to email your thoughts and opinions to us, you're more than welcome. Carolina@y'all.com. Carolina@y'all.com. That's YALL.com. If you can't catch up with us live on Monday nights, you can go ahead and go to iTunes and download a podcast of the Carolina CrowLine for free to take with you to the office, to the gym, when you're walking the dog, when you're tired of listening to the wife nag at you, whatever you need to do to make sure that you get the Carolina CrowLine in your life, go ahead and download that to your device. If you do not have a device and it's just you and your computer, you can go ahead and go to YouTube and watch all of our webcasts as well for free. Just go to YouTube and type in Carolina CrowLine. We bring it to you often in every single way possible, like a boss here at the Carolina CrowLine. Before we get any further, I just want to go ahead, and I feel like it would be I would be remiss if I didn't mention what today's events up there during the Boston Marathon. We'd like to focus on Gamecock sports here, of course. However, I think this does need to be mentioned. Our thoughts and prayers are out there with the runners and everyone that was injured, those that passed away. Just an amazing story up there in Boston. Your heart goes out to just the world in general about just every single time something like this happens. You just wonder what the deal is with people on planet Earth and why they would just want to bring harm to people that they don't even know or don't even meet for a cause or an ideal or a belief or what have you. But, just unspeakable tragedy, and hopefully that person or people are taken care of and caught. Apparently 2 devices have gone off down at the finish line. 2 more devices were found but dismantled, and were able to give people clues as to how the devices were made, where these may have been made, and hopefully lead to the capture of the people responsible. Just send that out. Our thoughts and prayers, of course, as I'm sure everyone listening here to the Carolina CrowLine agrees with me. Just lift those people up and hope everything turns out for the better there. And we learn from this so that we can, keep things like this from happening. Instead of being a reactive society, being more of a proactive society. So just a shout out to those people to let you know that we're thinking about you and our thoughts are with you as well. Even though we continue on talking about Carolina sports, just know a small part of us is thinking about what's going on up there. All right. Roller coaster ride for the Yardcocks. You heard me talk about that at the top of the program. South Carolina gets swept down in Gainesville by a Florida Gator team that's extremely young, that has lost a lot of talent to the draft, a team that doesn't have a lot of expectations. I believe they're perfect. They're exactly 500, 18-18 on the year right now after that 3-game series sweep. And if you watched the game on, Saturday and the game on Thursday and listened to the game, whether on the internet or on the radio in your local area, on Friday evening, you know exactly what I'm about to tell you. It's not necessarily that the Gators, Game 3 is one story, but the Gators took the victories on their own, came out, handled the Gamecocks, and won decisively with the exception of that 3rd game on Saturday. The Gamecocks continued to let the Gators hang around, could not really mount any semblance of offense, continued to strand runners when the bases were loaded multiple times throughout the weekend. Middle relief just continues to let down the Gamecocks. More bad news in the pitching department. Closer Tyler Webb, who was one of the league leaders in saves with 11 on the year, has been shelved indefinitely with a muscle strain, with what's categorized as a severe muscle strain and tendonitis in his throwing elbow. He's already had Tommy John surgery in high school, and he's had a second surgery as well on that elbow while he's been a member of the Gamecocks. So he's pretty much been shut down indefinitely. Will not pitch this week, will not pitch this weekend against Kentucky. More than likely won't pitch against Vanderbilt. And who knows if he will be available for LSU. 3 very big series in a row coming up here for the Gamecocks. More bad news on the injury front. Backup catcher Dante Rosenberg broke a hamate bone in his wrist during batting practice prior to the game down in Florida. I believe it was on Thursday. He is out 6 to 8 weeks, which effectively knocks him out for the remainder of the regular season. I believe you might recall one Jackie Bradley Jr., I believe he had hamate bone damage that required surgery in his wrist when he was trying to dive for a ball in the outfield. So the injury bug continues to be strong here with this team in 2013. You've had Max Schrock miss time, Graham Psycho miss time, Tanner English has missed some time. Of course, Jordan Montgomery missed about a month. He's just getting back. So you've had a lot of problems with the injury bug here biting the Gamecocks, and that really has established a problem as far as consistency goes. Who's going to be the next guy out of the pen? Jack Wynkoop hasn't been the answer in relief, middle relief. Evan Beal has not been the answer in middle relief. Kurt Britt has not been the answer in middle relief. Vince Fiore has done some good things, but he has been struggling in league play. So the question is, right now that you lose your lockdown closer, your Matt Price type of guy in Tyler Webb, who's going to be the people that you can count on late in the innings, in those middle innings? Coach Holbrook has said, all intents and purposes, that Colby Holmes will assume the closer role. You remember back to last year when the Matt Price experiment with him as a starter began, and Colby Holmes was supposed to be that closer guy and has never quite recovered since then, with that mental switch kind of being flipped all fall last year, getting used to the closing role and kind of adopting that mindset to be flip-flopped in the middle of the season. Colby struggled. He's continued to struggle, I think, overall for the most part. So Colby Holmes is going to be sliding back into that closer role. One guy whose name you haven't really heard of much lately is Forrest Kumis. Again, another guy who struggled to come back from injuries after kind of being knocked out with the injury bug last season, still struggling to get back to where he once was. So just consistency on the mound is really what is hurting the Gamecocks. Again, leaving runners on base, not stringing together timely hitting, and then this long middle relief and back end of the rotation. Still kind of a revolving door with your Nolan Belcher, your Jordan Montgomery. Again, Colby Holmes or Evan Beal could have been that third starter. Who's going to slide in and take that spot now? So a lot of questions in the air for the Carolina Gamecocks leading up to what is pretty much the do-or-die part of the season when you take a look at hosting Kentucky here at home, Kentucky in the top 25, then you go out to Baton Rouge to face a top 5 LSU squad, and then home to a top 5 Vanderbilt squad as well. This is going to be kind of the make-or-break portion of the season. We're really going to find out what these Gamecocks are made of. Again, at this point in the year, the records were comparable. However, I would venture to say we're a lot more comfortable with where our Gamecocks were last year than where our Gamecocks are this year. You're going to hear from Chad Holbrook coming up a little bit later in the program, and you're going to get to hear his thoughts about the weekend and upcoming for the remainder of the season. But on the other side of this short break, Enemy Report, our good friend Lawton Swann joins us from Death Valley to talk about the Clemson spring game on the Carolina CrowLine. Welcome back into the Carolina CrowLine. We are about 17 minutes into our short hour that we get here with you once a week. So you'd be amazed how many things go on in a news cycle for 5 days, let alone a 24-hour news cycle. I don't think an hour is just enough for me to jam everything in. But we're going to do our best here on the Carolina CrowLine, and we're going to start right now. Switch gears a little bit from baseball into football. We have a report from enemy territory up in Death Valley. We are joined by CRM Sports insider and host of the Clemson Hotline, Lawton Swann, and I just wanted to bring him in and let you know what's going on with the Clemson Tigers. You know we always got one eye open up there in Death Valley. So Lawton, why don't you just go ahead and break it down for the Carolina fans? What should we look forward to seeing on the field, and what were some wrinkles or some new players that emerged on the field?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think there's a lot of people in Tiger Town especially excited about the upcoming season with kicking off the game against Georgia. You know, as well as all the Gamecock listeners out there, that when you're starting a season off against a team like the Georgia Bulldogs, your focus is immense even during the off season and during the spring game. So Clemson Tiger fans were looking to see a lot of things. Who's going to step up and fill the shoes of a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, who turned pro early? Could a kid like Martavis Bryant step up? I think Clemson fans saw that. And then the other intriguing thing was there's no question that Taj Boyd was going to be the quarterback coming in. But you had Cole Stout and Chad Kelly going head-to-head basically for that number 2 spot. And unfortunately, as good as Chad Kelly's day started, I mean, he looked incredible. He looked fast. He looked accurate. You know, he makes one cut and has a apparent torn ACL, and that's going to cost him most of this entire season. Dabo Swinney doesn't sound like he's going to look to have a medical red shirt, but I think there are a lot of Clemson fans out there who are saying, hey, hold up, Dabo, let's think about this a little bit longer and let's let things progress and really see where Chad Kelly is and can he even contribute that late in the season. In November, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to people. But that number 1 guy was what, or the number 1 backup, I guess I should say, is what Clemson fans were really looking for, and it appears by de facto, because of the injury, it's going to be Cole Stout.
Yeah, Chad Kelly, I guess a guy who kind of made waves after his commitment to Clemson, kind of calling out Cole Stout a little bit, via social media about how indirectly I would say that, Taj Boyd needs somebody to really push him and improve him, and he's looking to come in and be that guy, and Cole Stout didn't sit too well with him. But, now that Chad Kelly is obviously out of the picture, certainly for this year, one would think. Is there who else quarterback wise is on the roster? Of course, we all know Taj Boyd, and Cole Stout will be that guy to get the call if he needs to. But is there anybody on the roster that Dabo Swinney or the coaches would feel comfortable sliding into that third slot?
Well, I'm not sure that they would have felt comfortable sliding in Stout or Chad Kelly, to be honest with you. I mean, I think when you look at where Taj Boyd has been, the number of snaps he's gotten, nobody's even comfortable with the initial backups. But you got a guy like Nick Schuessler. He is a walk-on, but he showed a lot of talent with the deep throw this past weekend. And I think the ultimate hope is that Taj Boyd is as injury-free as he's been in his career. That will continue. And then you'd only have to go to a guy like Cole Stout, who has an NFL pedigree, much like Chad Kelly. Of course, Chad Kelly's uncle is Jim Kelly, former quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. But there's no mistaking the fact that when you look at this Chad Morris offense, the straw that stirs the drink is the quarterback position, and Clemson fans certainly don't want to have to go any further than Taj Boyd if they have to.
Any new wrinkles in the Chad Morris offense that you noticed on Saturday?
Well, Chad Morris he's one of those guys who you hate to say he nitpicks himself, but he really does. And he's really looked at the speed of this offense and trying to figure out ways to speed it up even more. I think Clemson fans would say that in the LSU game in the Peach Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, I'm an old school guy. I still like to call it the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, you call it the Peach Bowl. It's fine with me.
Do you wish we'd go back to that?
Aside from all the free Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches that they give out down there, I'm perfectly fine with calling it the Peach Bowl.
Okay, so against LSU in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, the thing that you saw, I think, late in that game was LSU's players wearing down, and Chad Morris wants to know, how can we get 5 more plays in a game? How can we get 7 more plays in a game? And so that's one thing he's trying to do is work on the speed. I tell you what, this is Clemson football right now offensively. If you try to watch the replay, you'll end up getting caught where you have to watch the game on the replay because they've already snapped the next play before the replay's over.
Right, that 20-second fast-forward button on the remote isn't very useful.
No, it's not at all. But, it did look faster. It looked quite polished considering that the guys under center weren't the starter. But obviously there are still some deficiencies and guys that Clemson are looking to replace, especially offensively, skill position players. I mean, you lose a guy like Andre Ellington, and you Gamecock fans, you know how good the Ellingtons can be.
Right.
No doubt about that. But, you got a couple of guys trying to step up and fill the spots. And I think the kid that I had the biggest question about coming in was Zach Brooks. He was the number 1 recruit out of Arkansas just a couple of years ago. He really showed some flashes in the spring game. He's got that breakaway ability that you really like out of a running back. And I think he'll be a guy that down the road, and maybe some during this season, fans across the country say, whoa, who's this Zach Brooks kid? So, that's something that you kind of put in your back pocket and hope comes out later on in the year.
Okay, just a couple questions here. Number one, you might need to refresh memories for everybody out there, especially in Gamecock land. Now that Andre Ellington has left the program, who is going to be that guy that's going to step in and take the number 1 back role?
Well, that's clearly, up for debate still. I think you've got a kid like Roderick McDowell who's proven throughout the years that he's a patient guy who's willing to work hard, and he had a number of carries this past season. But DJ Howard's the kid that I really like, and a lot of people will say that DJ Howard runs too upright. But I think that was some similar criticism that a guy like Adrian Peterson had in college. And I'm not comparing this kid to Adrian Peterson. There's no way, shape, or form that he's going to be Adrian Peterson down the road. But he runs with that style. He kind of runs a little bit more upright than you'd like to see. But he's a powerful running kid, and I think he's a guy that a lot of people like. And then you got some incoming freshmen, that you don't get to see just yet. You got a guy like Tayshawn Dye and Wayne Gallman that Clemson fans think one of those two guys might actually get some playing time this year. But I think right now it's probably going to come down to McDowell and Howard, and then you'll see some Zach Brooks maybe on some third down situations. If he can prove that he's got the hands out of the backfield, he'll give Clemson a good option as a third down back.
Now, just from my watching Clemson on a limited number of times last year and one time in particular, I have some questions about the defense, especially the defensive backfield and the linebacking core. I think you've got some talent up front, but who are you looking for to really step up and take a step forward in this second year in the Brent Venables defense?
Well, Kellen Jones came over with Brent Venables from Oklahoma. He was a kid who had originally committed to Michigan and then transferred to Oklahoma and wasn't very happy at Oklahoma, but I think liked Brent Venables in his system. So he's made his way over to Clemson. He's a kid. He's one of those headhunter, those linebackers that you really love to see out there on the field. He makes good plays. He had a 44-yard interception return in the spring game. And, that's the funny thing about spring games. Do you applaud the defense for the interception, or do you scratch your head and go, oh, no, there's another offensive turnover? That's something that's kind of funny about these things, and Gamecock fans and Tiger fans alike all know that. But I think, he's a kid who can come in and fill some gaps that Clemson's maybe had, some deficiencies. They lose Justin Parker. He gets out of the program because of being injury-prone. And then you've got Tony Stewart and Stephon Anthony, who were five-star guys coming in. Stewart, unfortunately, has had a number of knee injuries in his career, in fact, at Clemson. But, if those two guys are healthy, if they can play smart, I think Clemson is going to be a lot better, at that second level. Now, in the secondary, you still are very, very thin. This Clemson team is very thin. Injuries hurt them last season as well, late. But, when you look at a kid like Mackenzie Alexander coming in, the five-star freshman, number 4 rated player in America by ESPN, I think he's a kid who, once fall camp comes around, can maybe be a difference maker and a starter. Travis Blanks last year was a great freshman. Started as a true freshman, played very well, and Robert Smith showed some signs in the spring game as well that he's going to be a pretty good safety for the Tigers. So defensively, I think Brent Venables said it was night and day, the difference in what this team is showing right now compared to what they did last year. And, you take away what you can from the spring game. Carolina fans, you guys know exactly how that is. You take everything with a little grain of salt, but ultimately what you're hoping to do is get through that game without too many injuries, and sadly you lose a Chad Kelly if you're a Clemson fan. And then also number 1 tight end, Sam Cooper, went down with an ACL injury as well. So those two guys gone with ACL injuries, and now the Clemson Tigers will have to look a little further on the depth chart. But there's a kid, Jordan Leggett, 6'6", 250, 260-pound tight end. He's a freshman, and he's a kid who has shown some real promise, not just in the spring camp, but in the spring game as well. He had a pretty good ball game too. So he's a guy who a lot of people think could be impactful, but you just never know. I mean, it's still too early, and you never know what injuries or what may occur in the fall too. But all in all, it was a good day, and as Gamecock Nation will attest to as well, I guarantee you, just getting out there and enjoying seeing some college football, having those pads popping felt good.
Oh, yeah, man, I tell you what, it was a beautiful day. I don't know what I'm sure it was very, very nice up in Clemson as well. The sun was out and shining, and boy, I tell you what, it didn't take me very long to get my official farmer's tan in full effect here. about one solid spring game afternoon. But we'll get you out here on this. One final question. You mentioned the speed of the Chad Morris offense, and for Gamecock fans out there, and even Clemson fans, it seems like you either fall on one side of the coin. It seems like in games, especially when Clemson falls behind, that the speed of the offense seems to tend to put pressure on the defense, meaning if you're trying to move plays very, very quickly and then you can't establish any offensive rhythm, then that defense is out on the field before you know it. Where's the middle ground there, especially when you talk about how thin you are in depth in the secondary as well? Do you think that's something that they try to balance out? Do you think that doesn't really matter as long as the offense is doing what it needs to do? Or, what's your stance on that whole situation?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the most difficult thing for a guy like Chad Morris with his offense is when you get down in a ball game, and I think we saw this in the South Carolina game this past season in Death Valley, is when you get down in a ball game, it's not to just become this team that's pass happy. When you look at the numbers, that Clemson puts up, it's a very balanced attack, typically speaking. But when you get down, that coach knows the weapons that he has, the skill position guys that he has. And for whatever reason, I think sometimes he gets a little bit pass happy when they get behind. I think you've got to be willing to stick with the run. And if that means you utilize a little bit more of the clock, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. And like you said, you give your defense a chance to rest. A final thing I want to ask you, though, before I leave. I was looking through the Carolina roster the other day, and I saw a Whitehurst on the list.
Yes.
So Kane Whitehurst. Charlie Whitehurst's cousin. How's that going over? I was just wondering, how's that going over in Columbia?
Well, he is, from what I can gather, he's a transfer from Arkansas. I think he got himself into a little bit of trouble over there, came over to Carolina, walked on. I think he's had some injuries and hasn't really been able to participate. So it's been kind of quiet on the Kane Whitehurst front, but they like his size. They like his ability to be a possession receiver. And Steve Spurrier has mentioned him several times as somebody that's been standing out. So I don't know if he's somebody that we're going to see contributing on the field this season. But yes, believe it or not, there's a Kane Whitehurst. and there's a Davis. Little James Davis is looks like had a very strong spring game, and he looks like he's going into the fall as the #1 back for Carolina in this season too as well.
That's a good point as well. I mean, Clemson Tiger fans, those names, James Davis and Charlie Whitehurst, they ring good still at Clemson, and I know that Gamecock fans probably, at least, Davis is more of a plain name, but when that Whitehurst is out on the field, it's going to be noticeable exactly who that is.
Oh yeah, there's not too many Whitehursts running around here,
and
definitely. Just the name Whitehurst just makes my skin crawl a little bit, because it wasn't all that long ago that we were screaming wait till next year, year after year after year. But anyway, we appreciate you coming on, Lawton. Thank you for giving us that breakdown in enemy territory. That's Lawton Swann. He is the host of the Clemson Hotline right here on CRM Sports. You can go ahead and find his podcast if you want to hear what's going on in Clemson land on iTunes as well. Thank you very much, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Let's pull the 2-seat out, baby. It's wherever you want to go.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency. Do you know the #1 cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-838-5562. That's 1-800-838-5562. Call 1-800-838-5562.
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
Christy Lane has touched the hearts of millions through her #1 biography and song, One Day at a Time.
I cried a tear.
Christy sings all your favorites.
You wiped it dry. I could fly higher than an eagle.
Christy Lane's new special, 59 Timeless Classics.
You are the wind beneath my wings. I believe in
Call now for these 59 classics by Christy Lane. You get country, gospel, pop. Plus new songs on 3 CDs, less than half price, only $14.99 plus shipping.
That's 1-800-617-1886. 1-800-617-1886. For Christy Lane, it's 1-800-617-1886.
The Southeastern Conference has established the most outstanding college football tradition in the country. The 14 member institutions have combined for an unprecedented 459 bowl appearances. Key to the success of SEC football is support of the many loyal fans who have helped the conference lead the nation in total attendance for 29 consecutive years. The SEC salutes the more than 6.5 million fans who will attend a game at an SEC stadium this year.
All right, welcome back to the Carolina CrowLine. We thank Lawton Swann for joining us here on the program to give us a little report on that school in the upstate, as Spurrier likes to call it, Clemson. We appreciate him taking some time out to be on the program to give us a report what's going up there in Tigertown. Interestingly enough, I don't know if this is normal. This is certainly the first time I've ever heard of anything like this, but Taj Boyd and Sammy Watkins actually went out to Athens to watch the Georgia spring game that was actually held 2 weekends ago, not this past weekend, but 2 weekends ago. They kind of sat there and chilled and watched it. I don't know if they were taking notes. I don't know if they had like a roster, or they were trying to diagram some plays, or I don't know what they were doing there. Honestly, I don't know what you could possibly accomplish watching a spring game in terms of scouting for an early season matchup to open the season. But they didn't last very long down there between the hedges, because Georgia fans started to recognize those boys. They kind of stand out in a crowd. I don't know if they're wearing their Clemson gear or not, but you know Sammy Watkins and Taj Boyd probably when you see them. So they kind of had to bail out and flee the stadium. But just kind of unusual. I don't really get the motive there. What they're trying to accomplish. But anyway, we're going to jump back to baseball. We haven't gotten a chance to hear from Coach Chad Holbrook yet after the Gamecocks get swept out of Gainesville and fall down the rankings. We'll get to the rankings in a second, but let me just toss it out to Coach Chad Holbrook to let you hear some of his post-game after that Saturday's blowout loss to the Gators. This is courtesy of GamecockCentral.com. So here's Chad Holbrook.
Trying to get the guys together on the same page. How do you handle this one?
Well, no, I'm going to think about that on the bus. I'm not going to make an emotional decision right here after the game. We got a couple of days we can practice this week, and I guess we got 3 or 4 available days. We'll have to give them one of the days off. I don't know which day I'll give them off yet.
You said yesterday you were pretty happy with the way the team was playing, even though the results weren't there. Do you kind of reassess that thought after a game like today? Or?
Well, the day got away from us just because we didn't pitch very well, and it snowballed on us because we just didn't really, Colby didn't give us a great start, and we got down 4-1, and we battled back to get to 4-4, and then the wheels came off, and it wasn't a good day. It wasn't a good day. We didn't play well. Give credit to Florida. They got 17 hits and 14 runs. Not going to lose many games when you get that. And it was a tough weekend, and we got a lot of baseball in front of us, and we'll see what our guys are made of after how they respond after a weekend like this.
Chad, have you ever seen a series where a team gets 21 singles before it ever gets an extra base hit? It just seemed like they were just kind of throwing it in there.
I was disappointed yesterday. I'm sitting here at the hotel last night, and saying, well, we played 2 games, we've hit them twice. We got a complete game from our pitcher, yet we lost 2 games. That's rare occurrence. And then, but you know what? They were tough outs. They were tougher outs than we were. They refused to strike out. They moved the ball. And they got big hits. And when you move the ball, you got a better chance of getting big hits. And when people are out there, and we had bases loaded and had pressure applied, but we couldn't knock down the door all weekend long.
No, you'd like the guys to be aggressive up there at the plate, looking for that first or second pitch fastball. Had a couple of pop-ups today or what have you. Is it easy to say, maybe turn that off and be a little more patient at the plate?
Well, you look at our starting lineup, we're pretty much 1-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. We got 9 guys in there that are, walked and struck out with hit by pitches. We're about 1-to-1 all the way through it. We got 9 guys in there that's got a decent on base percentage, but I don't know. You got to get good pitches to hit early in the count. We try to teach them if you're going to swing early, make sure it's a good pitch. Sometimes that's the best pitch you get, and you're not going to walk a lot of runs home. You got to knock them in. You got to hit them in, and I don't have any problem with them swinging the bat first pitch.
Have your opinions of Florida as a team changed any since 3 days ago, or do you think they're just kind of starting to play up to the potential?
No, well, they got some good arms. They probably got a couple of high draft picks on that team. Heck, they run into the guy like there in the 9th inning, was throwing 91, 92, harder than we had we had all weekend long. So they got some good arms. They got some experience with Ramjet and Gus Hughes. They got some good players, and they were picked second in our division for a reason preseason, because coaches in this league know they got good players and they're deep on the mound. And they're starting to play. They're starting to play up to their potential. I guess I hadn't seen them play up. I think they're a damn good team based on what I saw these 3 days.
With Webb and Rosenberg, can you get them looked at tomorrow, or you have to wait till Monday?
Rosenberg will be seen tomorrow, and Webb will be his MRI is Monday.
Did you think you found a hot pitcher with Jack Weinkoop out there for a while?
Yeah, that was encouraging. If I take anything away from today, it was that Jack, threw in there and he battled and he gave us a chance. If I'd have known the other guys would have thrown that way behind him, we wouldn't have took him out. And maybe the game's 7-5 instead of 14-5. But at that point in time, we're trying to win the game, and it's 4-4, and we got some righties coming up, and we want to see if Bill could get us a punch out. Bill's been good for us at times, but he's struggling finding the strike zone right now.
All right, so there's a little bit from Coach Chad Holbrook. Look, I tell you, a lot of people are up in arms about the coach and we should have hired somebody else, and he's not the man for the job, and he can't handle it. Let me tell you something. Ray Tanner brought Chad Holbrook down here because he knew how to hit. He knew how to get his guys to hit, especially when they changed those bats in the days of the big long ball that Ray Tanner was so in love with, went right out the window. Bunt, run, move guys over, swing early in the count, and string some hits together. So Chad Holbrook is not the reason. I guarantee you all those errors, all the fielding blunders, the high throws, the bobbles on the bunts before you can throw the home plate to get outs there at home, swinging early in the count and popping up the baseball sky high for all these outs in a row, multiple times having the bases loaded, but then either popping it up to get that second out and then somebody striking out. That's not Chad Holbrook. That's the players out there on the field. And Chad Holbrook is coaching his tail off out there every single day. It's just up for these guys, these players, to step up and take that leadership position and say, you know what, not on my watch, LB Dantzler and everybody else. So we'll wait to see how this thing turns out. Stick with us on the other side of this break right here on the Carolina CrowLine. Welcome back here to the Carolina CrowLine. I'm your host, Tyler Garrett. If you want to go ahead and get your thoughts and opinions on the CrowLine, you can more than welcome to jump on the CrowLine. 803-450-0086 is the number to call. 803-450-0086. Of course, you can always tweet at us during the show at Carolina CrowLine, hashtag CrowLine. You can like us on Facebook and post on the wall, Carolina CrowLine. You can also email us, Carolina@y'all.com, Carolina@y'all.com. That's YALL.com. Go ahead and email us with your thoughts and opinions about what we're talking about here on the Carolina CrowLine, or anything else that's on your mind, questions or comments that's going on with the University of South Carolina athletics. A couple more quick notes about the baseball team. We've talked a lot about it this edition of the program. South Carolina falls all the way down to number 18 in this latest edition of the baseball poll, up as high as number 11 last week, but back down to number 18. So, it's been an up and down season for South Carolina. You open the season here at home, you experience some success, you get 2 or 3. You open the season up at Missouri, you get 2 of 3. You open the season here at home by getting swept for the first time in the new stadium by Arkansas. Then you take 6 in a row in the SEC, and then you go ahead and get swept right out of Gainesville. So it's kind of been feast or famine here for the University of South Carolina, with the meaty part of the schedule coming up. And we talked about it, a big-time series here at home with the University of Kentucky. Then you go out to Louisiana and take on LSU, a team not too far removed from a national championship and in the top 5. And then you have a big-time head-to-head matchup against a top 5 Vanderbilt as well. And then you go to Georgia and finish the year up at Mississippi State. So this is kind of the home stretch here. We'll find a lot out about what this team is made of, and I kind of alluded to it on the other side of the break, the front side of that last commercial break. But South Carolina, the coaches, I guarantee you, are coaching their hearts out. They do not coach to pop up the ball. They do not coach to commit fielding errors or sail the ball high over the first baseman's head or to bobble the ball on a bunt when you're trying to throw home or anything else, come in and pitch horribly in middle relief, anything else like that. It's, in my opinion, right now, this is a case, and you can hear it in Chad Holbrook's voice, this is a case of the players. They need to shoulder their responsibility. They need to refocus and rededicate themselves. I don't know if they need to get a spirit stick back out like 2010. I don't know if LB Dantzler needs to get a new beta fish like Reptar last year. I don't know what needs to go on, but something needs to go on, and these players, especially the leaders on the team, I'm pointing to a Nolan Belcher, I'm pointing to an LB Dantzler, I'm pointing to a Grayson Griner, a Joey Pancake, guys that have been in the system and can be positive examples, and go ahead and get on these guys and make sure they're doing what they need to do. There are a lot of freshmen out there, and if you want to go ahead and be successful, there's no time to wait. People might say, well, you're just spoiled. South Carolina has had a whole bunch of success here lately, and it's time for everybody to kind of get themselves together and really take off the garnet-colored glasses and yada, 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 and whatnot and so forth. But I'm telling you, if you want to maintain this high level of success, I believe it is still possible. That's why I'm not satisfied, in my opinion, with what's going on the field. I think there's room for improvement, and I don't think there's any excuse. I think South Carolina could have continued their winning ways down there in Gainesville. You let Florida hang around. You committed some mistakes on Friday and on Saturday. You heard him say that we out-hit Florida both those days, but you just let them creep back into the game. It was pitching, and it was untimely hitting, and it was fielding mistakes. So you need to kind of shore up those 3 facets of the game, and I think some of that takes care of itself. But there's no time to breathe here in the SEC. You got big-time programs rolling through Columbia, and they're going to be ready to get a piece of the Gamecocks as well. And one other baseball note, a guy that was instrumental to the success of South Carolina in 2010 and 2011, star lefty Michael Roth was called up over the weekend and made his major league debut. He was pitching in Double-A, but called up to the Los Angeles Angels and pitched that night. He pitched a 8th and 9th inning and actually got the win there for the Angels of Anaheim, or Los Angeles Angels, or whatever they're named these days. Michael Roth comes in and pitches a 1-2-3 8th inning. He also got 4 strikeouts in 2 innings of work and the win as well. Michael Roth, again, that lefty specialist, somebody who's not going to blow anybody away with power or anything like that, but he has such a weird delivery, an unusual arm angle, and the ability to change arm angles depending on the batter and depending on the pitch. I think he's a perfect situational lefty out of the pen that you're not going to be able to get a good look at if he faces 3, 4, 5 hitters, maybe just comes in to get a guy out here and there. I think he could be a very reliable option for the Los Angeles Angels. If he was an overpowering power lefty pitcher who could also change his arm angles, you might think of him in a starting role there in the big leagues. He's a starter for AA Arkansas for the Los Angeles Angel farm team. But when you get up to the bigs, I think right now a great place for him to start, if he sticks with the club, if he's not sent back down due to some guys that were injured on the roster and becoming healthy again, I think he's that perfect situational lefty. Firsthand, Gamecock fans, all the success he had with his arm angles and mixing up his pitches and location. I think he could be very effective in the majors. Stick with us on this short break. We're going to get into some spring football of our own. The Garnet and Black spring game and a little bit of Steve Spurrier right here on the Carolina CrowLine. Stick with us.
All I wanna do is put a drink in my hand.
If you like painting and saving, ask Sherwin-Williams and save 40% on paint and stains during our 4-day super sale, April 19th through the 22nd. With 40% off our great paints and stains and 30% off painting supplies, you can give your whole home a color makeover. But hurry, these savings are so super, they won't be around for long. Find your nearest store at sherwinwilliams.com/sale. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Here's a surprising summertime fact from new Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. We all know that irritants like bug bites and poison ivy can make you itch. But what you might not know is how. Actually, it's the histamines your body creates in reaction to these irritants that make you miserable. But now that scratch has met its match. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. Its maximum strength itch medicine blocks your itch-causing histamines fast for long-lasting relief. New Allegra Anti-Itch Cream. The relief you've been itching for. Use as directed.
Ladies, when was the last time you found it easy to lose weight? If you're like most women, it was before you turned 40. That's because age 40 is when hormonal imbalance begins. And until you balance your hormones, losing weight can be practically impossible. Thank goodness today we have Amberen. Amberen promotes hormonal balance naturally. It's clinically shown to cause weight loss in women over 40 with no big lifestyle changes required.
I thought I was somehow not trying hard enough to lose weight. Turns out it was my hormones. I started with Amberen, and I finally lost the weight. It was so easy, and I feel fantastic.
Amberen relieves other symptoms of menopause too, like hot flashes, fatigue, sleeplessness, and many more. The first 50 callers right now can get a complimentary, risk-free trial of Amberen with a 30-day supply free. Now, free supplies are limited, so be one of the first callers now at 1-800-584-9252. That's 1-800-584-9252. 1-800-584-9252.
Welcome into the Carolina CrowLine. I'm your host, Tyler Garrett. We are bringing our action-packed hour of Gamecock sports to a close here, and we're going to do so with a little bit of spring football. Of course, the Garnet and Black spring game was in full effect over this past Saturday at Williams-Brice Stadium. The official crowd capacity, 35,218. Not a record, but a lot. Actually, a lot. I've been to spring games where there have been far fewer. I remember the very first spring game in Steve Spurrier's first year here. I think there were probably, definitely, if my memory serves me correctly, more people there for a spring game like that. I can't remember, maybe Marcus Lattimore's first spring game may have had a lot of people, but there are definitely more in the stands this year, and that's just a product of success on the field. There's no other way to look at it. South Carolina, the more success you experience, the more enthusiasm that will be surrounding the program, the more national high school recruits will sit up and take notice, like number 1 rated recruit Deshaun Hand, who was in Columbia several weekends ago for a visit as well. So just the buzz surrounding this program, even throwing around the words like national championship contender. I mean, are you kidding me, Gamecock Nation? When did you think you were ever going to hear anything like that again? Of course, we're not a front runner in that discussion, but just when you hear these words being thrown around, Marcus Lattimore for Heisman, SEC champions, I mean, it doesn't really get much better than this. The only thing that's left to do is prove it on the field, and I'm going to toss it out to the HBC, old Coach Spurrier, and let you hear his thoughts on the spring game.
Yeah, the spring game is always a fun day when you have a good year the year before, and I think the fans feel the same way, that we can come back on a glorious sunny day like today and appreciate the seniors that played the past 4 years and what these guys have accomplished really the last 3 years, and sort of show their thanks and appreciation for them. But as far as the halftime show, I think that's probably the highlight of our spring game. When you got something to sort of brag about or be proud of, whatever you want to call it. But I believe you do have to celebrate your successes to allow the current players on your team to say, hey, hopefully that's me standing there. And they're talking about what we've achieved when my playing days are over here at Carolina. So it was nice to see all the seniors back, and we're going to see them again later tonight at a little get-together. As far as the game itself, it was pretty even, as you could tell. They had a defensive score, but the black team ended up winning 44-36. A lot of passing yards, no blitzing allowed, and the quarterbacks had pretty good protection. So they were able to throw for quite a bit of yards for a spring game, I guess. Nobody got hurt seriously at all, bumps and bruises. And that's the way usually our scrimmages are. That was sort of a scrimmage game out there for us, and we found a way to put some scoring into it with the Garnet team and the black team, and we came up with that 3-point bonus opportunity between the first 3 quarters. I guess we made all but one of them, 5 out of 6. Give those kickers a little pressure in front of the crowd. But other than that, all the guys played pretty well. I think you could tell we got some tight ends that can really play. Buster Anderson, Jarrell Adams, and even our 4th team walk-on guy got him a touchdown, Homad. And but we kept most of the defensive guys out of the game, and most of the offensive guys that had played a lot, they didn't play much at all either. So it was good work for those youngsters, and it was a good, fun day for us. All right, any questions on anything? Yeah.
What have your impressions been of Jarrell Adams throughout the spring, and where do you see him fitting in come fall?
Yeah, he and Buster are good. I told the ESPN boys out there, we got 2 of the best tight ends around. Jarrell's really come around this spring. Buster's gained, he's gained about over 30 pounds since he first arrived here. Came here about 210. He's about 242 or 3. He looks like a tight end now. And both of them are tough. They don't shy away from the ball. They can block. They've really improved their blocking this spring. So in fact, we gave 2 game balls out to 2 graduate assistants, Addison Williams, coaching all those young secondary players, and Scotty Spurrier, is working with the tight ends this spring. So those 2 graduate assistant guys got the spring game ball today.
See, what was it?
Yeah.
What was it like for you to see Marcus out there on the field one more time?
Well, I've seen Marcus at our banquet last night. Saw him at Pro Timing Day. So.
Did he get the cheers?
Oh yeah, that was expected. And when I said he's the best player to ever play here, I really mean that. I think he is. His influence and what he did on the field was right there with the best. To think he scored more touchdowns than anybody. Played, 22, 23 or 4 games. That's all he played. But he can score touchdowns. I mean, he's a talent and such a wonderful young man and such a leader, such an influence on the other guys. That's why we've won 31 games, Now, the other players did their part. Don't get me wrong. But he was an influence on the entire team.
All right, so there's just a little bit from Coach Spurrier. We're not going to get into too much of it because we're running out of time. So that's a little bit from Coach Spurrier. Again, Black wins 44-36. I tell you what, the quarterback position has probably never been deeper in 20, 30 years here at the University of South Carolina than it is right now with Connor Shaw, Dylan Thompson, Connor Mitch, Brendan Nosovich throwing things around up there. Very happy and proud to see what's going on with the quarterback position. Mike Davis, 2 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. He looked very stout. He's going into the fall camp as the #1 back in the South Carolina offense. The tight ends, everything's looking pretty strong here. You wait for these fall guys to show up. These rookies, maybe they can make some noise as well. But I tell you what, the schedule sets up very nicely. We've got plenty of time to talk football here coming up on the Carolina CrowLine. Thanks for sticking with us on this edition of the program. We'll see you next week. Go Cox.